For the first quarter of 2024 App Bonanza, this is demonstrating Add Voice Aloud Reader. We've talked about the Add Voice Aloud Reader on both our email and Telegram groups. Today, however, I'd like to demonstrate that for BAU, blind Android users. I'll be demonstrating this on my old Pixel 6 Pro running Android 14. I am on my home screen now and will navigate to my folder of ebooks. Here we go.
Folder. Ebook readers, 4 or more items.
Let's go ahead and tap here to activate.
Kindle.
It says Kindle, and next icon here will be Add Voice Aloud Reader.
Add voice.
Go ahead and tap.
Add voice. Allow, button. Allow Add Voice Aloud Reader to send you notifications.
And the whole idea of allowing it to send you notifications is that so you can control the reading process on your lock screen. If you don't want to control your reading experience on the lock screen, then you don't have to allow it. You can just say do not allow. And then every time you want to interact with the controls, you have to unlock your phone and then find that controls or those controls within the notifications area. For this demonstration though, I'm going to let it allow.
Allow, button. Add voice. Reading list, button.
The first thing we heard is reading list, which is the first item on the top left corner. And then going to the right corner of the phone, we have several buttons. And these include the following as I go right.
Search, button.
We have search.
Open, button.
Next.
Reload or clear,
Reload
button.
or clear.
Reference and bookmark,
Reference
button.
and bookmarks.
Settings, button.
Settings.
Paste text, button.
Paste text.
Overflow menu,
And overflow menu. In the middle, though, we have some buttons as well. Right down in the middle of the phone, we have some buttons. But before that, though, we have some instructions.
Open any file you would like to read or listen ebook, HTML, TXT, doc, PDF, by pressing the folder icon on top. If you see an interesting web page in the browser or any news reading app, send it to Add Voice by pressing the share button in the menu or toolbar there, and select Add Voice icon. You may also copy text in any app, then press menu, paste text in Add Voice.
So in other words, it's a little tutorial on how to go about it. As I indicated, though, in the middle, though, we have some buttons, and from the left to the right, these are the buttons that we come across.
Repeat. Off, button.
We have repeat, and that's off.
Examine sentence with screen reader, button.
Next.
Previous, button.
Next.
Play pause, button.
Next.
Next, button.
And last button on the right.
Show hide setup, button.
Show/hide setup. If I tap on this, it will pull that or this tab of buttons to the bottom of the screen, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'll tap. Those buttons now are at the bottom of the screen. Now let's go back though to the top and examine some of those things that we saw earlier. That is some of those buttons, most especially though the ones that are of great importance. And I think all of them are. Starting from the top left, we've got
Reading list, button, window Add Voice.
reading list. So for example, if I were reading something and I tap on that, it will show you the chapters and things like that. For some reason, that should be, the reading list should be like a list of my books and things like that. However, notice that when I tap on that, then it will show me the chapters of the book that I'm reading. We'll show you that in a little while here after we open the book to demonstrate how this works. Moving to the right. Of course, you could tap here to search your books. Next.
Open.
Open. That's when we tap here to go open a file or open an EPUB or whatever format that we would like to read. Next.
Reload or clear.
Reload or clear. If I tap on this, it's going to clear what is presently showing. Next.
Reference and bookmark, button.
And here we come across reference and bookmarks. Next.
Settings, button.
Settings. That's the one we're going to go into. But let's look at
Paste text.
paste text and the overflow menu. Let's quickly take a look at what this does, and then we'll come back and go take a look at Settings.
Navigate back. Navigate forward. Image.
Tapping on that overflow, we heard,
Navigate forward. Image.
and then moving to the right.
Info about current text. Button.
And by the way, those buttons are near the top and going right.
Share. Button.
There's Share button. And now below that, we have the items. We got Save,
Save. In list. Page look.
Page look, how you want that page to look like.
Edit text.
You could edit the text in case you find some things that are not written correctly or there's an error somewhere. You could edit the text.
Record sound file.
You could record something into an MP3 format or into a WAV format, whatever the case may be.
Tutorial.
We come across Tutorial, Help, and then the last item here is Exit. In other words, if you tap here, you'll be exiting out of the AdVoice Aloud Reader. So for example, if I tap,
Exit at voice. Do not ask again. Just exit. Check box. Not checked.
and
Cancel. Button.
cancel, I'm going to tap Cancel.
Add voice. Overflow menu. Button.
So we're back to the menu eye and we're sitting on that overflow menu. The next thing we want to tap on is that Settings, and that's the second button going left from here.
Settings. Button.
Here's our settings, and I'll tap here to activate.
Add voice settings. Navigate up. Button. Showing items 1 to 12 of 18.
We're told we have some 18 items, and the first thing that we're sitting on, of course, is that Navigator tab found near the top left corner of the phone. Let's though move away from here and continue through the items. I'm just going to go through them, and if I find one that is interesting, we'll go into it, or otherwise you can just go through these things on your own when you have the time. Starting from the top, here are the items that we come across.
Speech settings. Speech start. Pauses. Reading speed rate. Headset control. Enlist.
You can go in here and customize how you would like to use your speech settings using headphones and all of that. Next,
Screen and sleep timer settings. What to show on the screen. Sleep timer.
next item,
Language. Default language for TTS. Auto language recognition.
and again, these are things you can go into and further customize them to your own liking. Next,
Change voice or language. Change the voice you hear, e.g. from female to male, or choose the language in which to read current text.
that's the TTS you would like to use for AdVoice Aloud Reader. Next,
Share icons. Text and reading list. Share icons shown in their actions. Auto saving. Text extraction. Zoom controls.
next,
Edit speech. Change pronunciation of some words. Skip unwanted sentence fragments, etc.
So in other words, if there are certain things that is not being pronounced right, or you want to edit a dictionary, basically that's what that is, you can go in here and change those, for example. Next,
Sync between devices. Synchronize reading progress and bookmarks between devices through Google Drive.
so here we come across sensing devices. In other words, if I'm reading Pride and Prejudice on my Pixel 6 Pro, for example, and I stop on chapter 2 or something like that, and I want to continue on my Pixel 8 Pro, then I want to make sure, though, that I've enabled the sensing of my devices and it syncs them to one's Google Drive. Let's go in here and show you what I'm talking about.
Cloud Sync Setup. Navigate up. Button. Out of list.
Here's what it says.
Enable synchronizing of the reading progress and bookmarks between devices.
Okay?
Sync reading progress. Check box. Not checked.
And you can check that, or
Sync bookmarks. Check box. Not checked.
next.
Current sync account.
And you have to, of course, be signed into the same account that you'll be syncing to the other device in question,
Change. Button. Disabled.
because we haven't selected any accounts.
Notes.
Notes.
Sync works through a folder named AdVoice Sync on your Google Drive. Do not modify that folder's content to keep sync working correctly.
Now, I do want to mention here in passing that in order to allow the sensing or the syncing of your books, you would have to first enable, or rather download, a plugin. So for example, if I check one of these checkboxes near the top, it's going to take us to where we could download something from the Play Store, a plugin to enable or make the syncing of devices possible. Here's what I'm talking about.
Sync reading progress. Checkbox, not checked.
Let's go ahead and tap.
Not checked. Voice Aloud Reader. Voice Sync plugin is needed to perform this function. Press OK to install the plugin now.
And there in the middle of the phone to the right edge is the OK
button.
Tapping on that takes us
Play
to the
Store.
Play Store.
Navigate up button.
And then to the right there you find the Install.
Install button.
And we'll just go ahead and install it for this demonstration.
Verified by Play Protect. Cancel. Voice Sync plugin. 9%. 94%. Installing.
And it is installed. I'm going to go back.
Cloud Sync setup. Sync reading progress. Checkbox, not checked.
Now I'm going to check it.
Checked. Allow Voice Sync plugin to access your contacts. Allow button.
And
don't allow button.
Don't allow.
Cloud Sync setup. Sync reading progress. Checkbox checked.
There we go. Now let's go back.
At voice settings. Sync between devices. Synchronize reading progress and bookmarks between devices through Google Drive. In list.
All right, moving on.
Translation setup. Set translation source and target languages and instant Google Translate option.
In other words, you could go in here and choose how you want to handle translations. For example, you find some word or some passage and you want to translate into another language. You can choose what languages you can do those translations between. Next.
Clear open by default. Press if voice always opens some type of files, e.g. PDF, and you want instead to choose which app to use.
In other words, if by default Voice Aloud is opening your PDFs and you wanted something else to open it, you can go in here and choose how that is handled. Next.
Clear passwords. Clear stored passwords and other data saved by web pages that this app opened.
Next.
PDF text import settings. Control how text is imported from PDF files.
Next.
Extra buttons to show in top toolbar. Choose which buttons to show on the top toolbar, if there is room for them.
In other words, if you want to add some buttons near that top that we saw with lots of buttons, and there's a button in there that says, hey, make my tea for me, or whatever the case may be, you want to put that on there, you can go ahead and include that there. That's what this does. So you can go in here and you will see all the buttons that you can choose from to add to the top, if indeed there's still enough room left. Next.
Accessibility, extra features and settings when TalkBack is active. Showing items 9 to 18 of 18.
So basically, if you go in here, it's going to tell you how to go about using it with TalkBack. And since TalkBack is important to us, those of us who are blind, let's go ahead here though and take a look at what these things are.
Voice Aloud Reader. Navigate up, button, out of list.
And putting my finger down.
When screen reader is active.
So these are the actions.
Double tap with 2 fingers toggles playback. Checkbox checked.
Next.
Enable Explore by touch in the main text area. Checkbox checked.
In other words, if you want to be able to find what the words are or what you're reading the text is, if you want to see the spelling of something, for example, enabling this makes it possible. In other words, the text is exposed to your screen reader. If you don't want that, however, you can just simply turn this off. Next.
Above may not work well on some devices, cause crashes, etc. If this happens, disable again the option Explore by touch in the main text area.
And
extra gestures under TalkBack.
Next item is the extra gestures, and these are some of the gestures, and we're talking about swipes. In other words, if you want to swipe to the previous item, or you want to swipe to the previous or next chapters and things like that, here's how you go about doing those.
Scroll vertically with 2 fingers. When scrolling stops, hear voice announcement of sentence number on top. Reading aloud will start from this sentence.
In other words, if I'm scrolling up or down with two fingers, just like we scroll through lists, and when you stop, it will tell you what that sentence is, and then the read aloud would commence from where you stopped. Next.
To scroll fast, bring talkback focus to seek control at right edge, use volume keys.
And we don't use volume keys anymore, so this information is a little bit outdated. Next.
Short horizontal swipes with two fingers move to next or previous sentence.
So in other words, if you do short swipes left to right, it moves you through sentences. And next.
Long horizontal swipes with two fingers move you to the next or previous article on the reading list, or next previous chapter in an ebook.
And that's what the long swipes are. So if you have several articles, and doing a long swipe right or left would move you to either the next or the previous one. And that's the same thing when you are in an ebook and where there are chapters. Doing those would move you to either the next or the previous chapter. Let's go back.
Add voice settings. Accessibility, extra features and settings when TalkBack is active. In list.
Moving on.
Reset Bookshare.org sync. Reset the account options related to Bookshare.org.
In other words, you can plug the Add Voice Aloud Reader to access your Bookshare account, so you can actually read books right from within the Add Voice Aloud Reader. However, if you want to clear your information from Bookshare, this is where you tap to clear such information. So it will mean you'll have to re-log into your Bookshare account again. Next.
Battery optimization settings. Android stops apps working in background or with screen off to save battery. This may halt reading aloud some time after you turn off the screen. Press here to change these settings.
Next.
Backup at voice folder. Backup the app default folder containing saved articles, bookmarks, speech edits, etc. to a different folder on this device or to cloud storage. Use if you need uninstall, reinstall at voice or to restore this data to a different device.
So in other words, if you want to back up your customizations or things of that nature, then you will tab here and you can back it up either to the cloud or a chosen area on your phone, and you could even export that to your computer so that in the event that you decide to do a factory reset or something, you can just re-import that zip folder and you can just restore it. The next item here, of course, is going to talk about restoration of that backup.
Restore at voice folder. Restore the app default folder containing saved articles, bookmarks, speech edits, etc. from a different folder on this device or from cloud storage.
So if you tab here, it's going to ask you or take you to the internal storage of your phone, or you can choose your Google Drive or whatever cloud service you use and go import that zip file I just talked about if you have done a backup.
File Manager, a very simple file manager to view, move, copy, delete files on device storage. Also shows hidden files in folders.
And that's the last item here in the settings. That's it about the settings of this. Now let's go back.
Add voice. Overflow menu, button, out of list.
And now, before I bring this demonstration to a close, I would like to open up a book and demonstrate it real quick. And I'm importing a book by former President of the United States back in the 1800s from 1869 to 1876, and that was Ulysses S. Grant. I'll now tap on the Open found near the top.
Button.
We tap.
This app needs access to storage to open the books and documents on this device. You may use it voice without access to all files, but easy browsing for files will be limited. Use folder with cloud icon to open files outside of the app folder. Cancel, button. Media control,
Or
OK, button.
we tap on OK.
At voice Aloud Reader. Search, button. All files access. Navigate up, button.
And now we are on a page here where we could enable the file access, and to the right here, in the middle, is an on-off switch.
Off, allow access to manage all files, switch.
And I'm going to tap that to allow it.
On.
And now I'm going to go back.
At voice Aloud Reader. Search, button. This view shows all book and article files found on this device. You may sort this list in different ways with the sort button on top. If you prefer, browse by folders, view, press the folders icon above. To access files from cloud, e.g., Google Drive, press folder with cloud icon, then 3 horizontal lines button at top left, choose Google Drive or other provider. Don't show this prompt again. Check box, not checked.
And in the middle of the phone to the right edge is the OK.
OK. At Voice Aloud Reader, search, button.
I am now in the internal folder of my device.
Personal Memoirs of U. S. Grant, complete,
And
Grant,
it's so that
Ulysses
books,
S.
so I'll tap.
Add voice. Open, button, out of list.
I tapped on that, and now
Play pause, button.
we have the play pause there in the middle, the things that I showed you earlier. And now what I wanted to do, though, is to go tap on that reading list that I showed you earlier, and that's how you get to see the chapters.
Reading list, button.
Tap here.
At Voice Aloud Reader. Progress, progress bar, in progress. At Voice Aloud Reader.
All right, tapping on reading list, here's what we got.
Contents, expanded, in list.
I'm just going to move down to one of the chapters.
West Point, graduation.
Let's tap here.
Add voice. West Point, graduation. Heading 3, add voice. So,
And
West
now
Point, graduation.
I'm going to
In
tap
the winter
on.
of 1838-9, I was attending school at Ripley, only 10 miles distant from Georgetown, but
And that's how you go about using the Voice Aloud Reader. Customize it to your liking. It's a very good reading app.